Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Om Vishnu Paramahansa Paravakacharya Asotara Sato Sri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. ISKCON the founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki. Ananti Goti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Shri Ho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gora Bhaktivinoda. So, special class tonight from this third chapter. Excuse me, I'll just get myself ready. You all know what these are, don't you? Beads. They are our life and soul. I know once I get to either early morning or late at night, they're my solace. So, we're reading for Srimad Bhagavad Gita, chapter 13, titled Nature, the Enjoyer and Consciousness. It's a very special chapter. It's telling us of this development of knowledge of what we've just heard in the second chapter, which tells us about how we can serve Krishna in different ways, so many ways. But there's also, okay, is that okay? Yeah. But there's we need this knowledge of our body, what's in this body, and also what's in the spiritual world. The envoy, you could say, he's an ambassador to help us in this material world. And so I'll just read the verse prior to this. But first, the prayers of respect. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Now, we have sort of an introduction into this chapter 13, text 4. He says here, O Scion of Bharat, Krishna is addressing Arjuna, you should understand that I am also the knower of all bodies. And to understand this body and its knower is called knowledge. That is my opinion. There are so many opinions about the body, what we use it and how we use it. And it's the direction in which we apply ourselves. We either for our own selfish interests, philanthropic activities, giving to others, but in the mode of goodness. But then there's that person who is the supreme enjoyer, who's going to find out, we're going to find out who is this person within. So, coming to this text 4. Tachyatram yadrika yadvikari yataschayet. Is it up on the screen? Up there? Yeah. So if you repeat this line, the first line again. Tachyatra yacha chadrika yadvikari yataschayet. So now the second line. Sachayo yat pradavatat. So Brahava's cha samsara samsena me shrino. Sachayo prabhavacha tat samasena me shrino. Now I'll read the word for word translation. Tat. So if you say tat, repeat after me. Tat. That. Kshetram. The field of activities. Yat. What? Cha. Also. Yadrik. As it is. Cha, also. Yat, having what? Vikari, changes. Yataha, from which? Cha, yat, what? Saha, he, cha also. Yaha, who yat, having what? Prabhava, influence. Cha, also. Tat, that. Samasena. In summary, sorry. Oh, summer was here too. Me, from me, Shrinu, understand. So Krishna wants us to hear from him about his opinion, what we can understand. Please hear my brief description of this field of activity and how it is constituted, what its changes are, and from whence it is produced. Who is that knower of the field of activities, and what his influences are? So if we repeat after me. Please hear from my brief description of this field of activity and how it is constituted. So, please hear from me. It is constituted. What its changes are. Whence it is produced. Who that knower of the field of activities is, and what his influences are. Right, so purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. The Lord is describing the field of activities and the knower of the field of activities in their constitutional position. One has to know his body is constituted, the materials from which the body is made, under whose control is this body is working, and how the changes are taking place, wherefrom the changes are coming, what are the causes are, what the reasons are, what is the ultimate goal of the individual soul is, and what is what the actual form of the individual soul is. One should also know the distinction between the individual living soul and the super soul. Their different influences, their potentials, etc. One just has to understand this Bhagavad Gita directly from the description given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And all this will be clarified. But one should be careful not to consider the Supreme Personality of Godhead in everybody to be one with the individual soul, the jiva. This is something like equating potent to the impotent. Yes, there are those who consider themselves, sadly though, that they're equal to God, that they're one with God. You and I are one with God. Yeah. But we're not. We're not the same as God. We're not the same as Krishna. Actually, if I said to you, and I remember I had this experience in Vrindavan about there was somebody there, they were like Mayavadi. They were wanting some prasad. And we said, yeah, sure, come. It's Ekadashi. And so we were all fasting. And he sat there waiting. And then he went away. It seemed like he'd come for some Ekadashi prasad. but we were all fasting. It was in the early days when I could do that sort of thing. But it was an interesting note that Prabhupada points out. If I give you prasadam, this is to the impersonalist, right, we're all one. This prasadam is mine, but what you've got is also mine, so I'll have all of it. And he looked. So, but we're one. So if I take your prasadam, then you don't need any. So you should be satisfied. And so this is Prabhupada's sort of turn of wit. But what happened then? He continued arguing with Prabhupada. He actually, and then Prabhupada, he said, yes. And then Prabhupada said, you're a rascal. And the person, he looked at him, and he didn't know how to handle it. So he was sort of surprised. But then he laughed as well, because Prabhupada laughed. And in the turn, they were both laughing. And this is the way it should be. Whoever it is, whoever we meet, whatever their inclination, we should understand they're part and parcel of Krishna. That actually, though they may be a rascal, they may not be, but again, they're part and parcel of Krishna. And so when we go back to the purport, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, He's the highest authority, and explaining this knowledge, and He's, as it is, this, as it says here, as it is, that there are many versions of Bhagavad Gita, but Prabhupada has brought this special edition out, Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is. Still, as a matter of course, learned scholars and standard authorities always give evidence from previous authorities. Krishna is explaining the most controversial point regarding the duality and non-duality of the soul and the super soul by referring to scripture, the Vedanta, which is accepted as authority. First he says, this is according to the different sages. As far as the sages are concerned, besides himself, Vasudeva, the author of the Vedanta Sutra, is a great sage. And in the Vedanta Sutra, duality is perfectly explained. Vyasadeva's father, Parashara, is also a great sage, and he writes in his books of religiosity, Aham tavam sarva tataya. We, you, and I, and the various other living entities are all transcendental. Although the immaterial bodies, now we are fallen into the ways of the three modes of material nature. We know what the three modes of material nature, don't we? Goodness, passion, and ignorance. And so, according to our different karma, certainly our previous lives, certainly in my early life anyway, I was you could say a karmi. I was a sense gratifier. As such, some are there on higher levels, and some are on the lower nature. Now, that the mode of goodness is what we're trying to head for. The higher nature, the mode of goodness, but the lower nature is ignorance. The higher and lower natures exist due to ignorance, and they are being manifested in an infinite living entities. So we have certainly, we've seen it in the summer where we live. There are different living entities: ants, insects, slugs, apples, so many trees, all these living entities. And but they have a purpose. And then he says, there are various other living entities, but they're all transcendentals. They're in material bodies. The tree has a soul, and also the Shri Shri Radha Gokunda Shikornatai Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman Ki Jai, that are all transcendental, although in material different bodies. Now we are falling into the ways of the three modes of nature, according to the different karma, what we've been in our previous lives, and some are in the lower nature. So then, but the infinite living entities is the super soul. He's infallible. He's contaminated by the three qualities of nature and is transcendental. Similarly, in the original Vedas, the distinction between the soul and the super soul and the body is made, especially in the Katha Upanishad. There are many sages who have explained this parashara and concerned with the principle amongst them, the same principle. The word Chandohi refers to various Vedic literatures. Taittiriya Upanishad, for example, which is a branch of the Yajurveda, describes the nature of the living entity and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As stated before, Kshetra is the field of activities. This body is the field of activities. There are two kinds of Kshetra Dhyan: the individual living entity and the supreme living entity. As stated in the Taittiriya Upanishad, Brahma Pucham Parastista. There is a manifestation of the Supreme, the Lord's energy, known as Anamaya, dependence on the food for existence. This is materialistic realization. We're only interested in eating if we're not careful. Then, in Pranamaya, after realizing the Supreme Absolute Truth in food, one can realize the Absolute Truth. And in the living symptoms of life forms. And of course, we know the type of food that the absolute truth of food is prasadam. Jnanamaya realization extends beyond the living symptoms to the point of thinking, feeling, and willing. But there are the Brahman realizations called Vigyan Maya. It is in which the living entity's mind and life symptoms are distinguished from the living entity himself. The next and supreme stage is Anandamaya, realization of the all-blissful nature. Thus, there are stages of Brahman realization, which are called the Brahman Pucham. Out of these, the first three, Anamaya, Pranamaya, Jnanamaya, involve the fields of activities for the living entities. Transcendental to all these fields, the living entities are the activities of the Supreme Lord, who is called Anandamaya. The Vedanta Sutra also describes the Supreme by saying Akandamayo Bayastik, that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is by nature full of joy. To enjoy transcendental bliss, he expands himself into Vijnanamaya, Pranamaya, Jnanamaya, and Annamaya. In the field of activities of the living entities are considered to be the enjoyer. Excuse me. It's quite a long purport. Different from the Annamaya, and from him, or different from him, different from the Annamaya. That means the living entities decides to enjoy dovetailing himself with the Akandamaya, then becomes perfect. So if we link our activities with Krishna, we become perfect. That is the real picture of the Supreme Lord as the supreme knower of the field of the living entity, and as a subordinate knower and the nature of the field of activities. One has to be search for this truth in the Vedanta Sutra and the Brahma Sutra. It says then, it is mentioned that the codes of the Brahma Sutra are very nicely arranged according to the cause and effect. Some of the sutras or aphorisms, Nivyad Na Nivyad 232, Nama Shrute, and the Palat Tatshuti. The first aphorism indicates the field of activities. The second indicates the living entity, and the third indicates the Supreme Lord, the summum bonum, along with all its manifestations of very living entities. So, summing up really what it says here, that certainly in this world we see that all living entities are but part of the Supreme, and they belong to Him. But not only do they belong to Him, we learn this information from the spiritual master in this chapter 4, text 35. See, when we come to, he says, to understand that all living beings are but part of the Supreme, he says they belong to me. And in union, they belong to me in love. And each living entity has its level of understanding. But we must understand we all come from Krishna. All these religions that are about the world, they all come from Krishna. There's no differences between us. We also actually worship the Supreme in some way. But there are those who don't, because they worship themselves, basically. And that's a strange thing, because you can say to them, well, how come you got into illusion? How come, if you're the Supreme, how come you're here? They cannot answer it. The question's there, but it's a strange sort of a paradox. You know, they're God, but they don't have the ways of God. So Krishna showed his universal form. Life, birth, death, disease, all the soldiers at Kurukshetra were there, and they're fighting each other. They're friends and relatives. But one was on a path of Duryodhana and his father, Dhritarashtra. But now we find that actually those that followed Krishna, the Pandavas, they had to make sure that these demoniac persons were defeated. That's why Krishna pointed out that he did not want to fight at first. Arjuna was a good person, but he said, that's very nice, but it's not enough. You've got to find a way of dedicating yourself to the Supreme Person. That way, all these evil forces must be destroyed. It's a just war. It's not a religious war. They're not there to just kill, but they have to. This inner conflict is this point of which we must arrive at ourselves at the end of life. That it's a battle. It's a battle to stay Krishna conscious. It's we're seeing so many things that tempt us, feasts, all these things. But if we're not careful, we'll end up sick, and then we die. We got to be careful. But some people can handle it. They have glubjaman fights and or a competition of how many they can, but they get sick. So we got to learn to look after ourselves in Krishna consciousness. We got to learn to follow Srila Prabhupada. And there's one thing, and I just want to show it. It's from David here, Prabhu. He's a wonderful servant, and it's a little poem. It's you could say it's a dedication to Prabhupada. He says, Krishna's dear devotee and venerable Vaishnava saffron clad, he with compassion to save each and every fallen soul, he preached the message of eternal truth and not just to console. That he, a man in the autumn of his life, was not to sit in reserve. He didn't hold back. He was following his spiritual master's instruction. He simply tried to serve with buoyancy of youth in old age. To the west he set sail. He struggled and prayed and carried those seeking the truth. He did avail. Born in a Vaishnav family, his life of a preparation, he was Krishna's conscious soul in every situation. He disseminated to the world the eternal scriptures of old. In every town and village he preached, eloquently and bold. And this is, it says then, humble and meek, he would constantly serve, his life a testament, a liberated soul. And then, who a noble mission, Krishna, he was sent, always absorbed in Krishna's names. His hand had an oceanic smile. He moved with the ease and grace of his aristocratic style. He is the Patita Pavana, or for the fallen souls. He's the Savior. He made sincere hearts pure and adorned them with saintly behavior. Please accept my most humble obeisances, Srila Prabhupada, Krishna's dear devotee, venerable Vaishnav, who is saffron clad. So, David Prabhu has turned the mission, or describing the mission of Srila Prabhupada, to actually to show that there's a mission, there's a higher mission in our life, and don't be afraid. Krishna's looking after you. So be meek, humble, and bold. Actually, we have to carry on and serve Krishna. That very soon we will know what it is. And he says here, His Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, on the order of his spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur, Srila Prabhupada took a mission spreading Krishna consciousness to the countries throughout the world and trying to serve, trying to please his spiritual master, and spent the authority of his life preparing a mammoth task. In the age of 70, at the age of 70, he traveled to the United States, America, and began spreading the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And that's what we've got. This wonderful Chaitanya Charitamrita that tells us how to behave. And certainly it's a guidance. I've just started looking at it. But it always speaks, and these acharyas that have come out, it's a disappearance day of Raghunath Das Goswami, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, and Gopal Bhatta Goswami. They're the, you could say, exemplary nature of Krishna consciousness. They came, they were humble, peaceful, and loved by everyone because of their peaceful nature. They somehow held Krishna in their heart as the first and foremost consideration. No matter what was happening about them throughout their lives, they brought to us these wonderful scriptures that we are now trying to survive. We have to somehow survive. And certainly I find myself trying to learn to survive, but just carrying on, and certainly I can see that in my daughter too. She's a very determined person, and with her children, her duties, she's exemplary. She reads Bhagavad Gita. She gets solace from it too. And I showed her the divine and demoniac natures. But it was a very interesting thing. She understood that because she'd experienced them in her life. She was beaten up because of her colour. She was adopted. And, just ignorance. And I remember at that time when she was on the underground, she tried to save somebody. She was sort of a very honourable person, didn't like anybody ill-treated. And she got kicked. And they took her to hospital. And they discovered a life-threatening disease that she had. But now she's just carrying on. Somehow, the cure that they're trying to apply is taking hold. She's holding on. But every day she's with her kids. She's handling every situation as it happens. It's like it says in the Bhagavad Gita that when it's in 927. I'll just look at it. It's a wonderful verse. Here we go. It says, whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer or give away, and whatever austerities you perform, do that, O son of Kunti, as an offering to me. So we all have these things. Everybody's suffering in this world in some way, but it's okay. If you've got Krishna in your heart, it says here, if you offer to me with love and devotion, a leaf or flower or fruit or water, he will accept it. And what do we do every day on the altar? all the time. They're making offerings that we're trying to follow in some way. Even just watching this arti tonight, you'll see them offering the incense, offering the flowers and leaves, tulsi. Every Sunday you'll see a tulsi garland on Krishna. And tulsi is what you offer on your foodstuffs. Krishna accepts her. She's very dear to Krishna. And as we should be dear to each other. That somehow this wonderful Krishna consciousness, they're showing us how we should all be together. It's a family. All living beings are but part of the Supreme. Mame vanso jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatanaha manaha sistanandriyani prakriti stani kasi. All the living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal parts and parcels. Just remember it. We have our differences, but let's just get along. We got to suffer, but in suffering, it brings us experience. Experience, when we experience and come through that experience, we learn something. We've learned to be humble. We've learned to be assertive when we need to be. But at the same time, we still have to go to authority. If we're unsure of ourselves, go to authority. Go to a spiritual master, spiritual guide. The people that they have you could say, a counselling now. It's a very wonderful thing. We need somebody that we've got as a friend, but it must be someone we trust, someone we can get along with. And then they'll say, don't be stupid. A friend always tells you what they think of them. It's true, isn't it? Is it? Tell me, isn't it? Your husband, your wife, they tell you what they think of you, each other. That's what it's all about. That's what it's there for. We are reflections of the spiritual world. And they have their differences. Some want to be aunties. Some want to be daddies, mummies. And look at Lord Damodar. He's coming up soon. He's come to tell us about that he just likes to surrender to his mum when he's tied with a rope. Because some good came out of that. There were 2 trees. And they were 2 princes born in Krishna's garden. And they were liberated just by being in Krishna's garden. They were pulled over. Their souls went to Krishna. So, if you get knocked down, get up again. It's a great thing. That's character. Prabhupada talks about that the character of the living entity is to serve each other. Chaitanya. It's the soul, the nature of the soul. That's what Chaitanya means. It's like Krishna's most merciful incarnation. He's come to show us how to behave as a devotee. And I think this bell, can you ring the bell for us, please? It's just about to happen. Okay. Hare Krishna. And I hope you enjoy your Gaur Arti. It's nice to see you all here. And don't forget to get along, somehow or other. All glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki. Yeah. Oh, and here they are, the supreme servants of Gaura, the most magnificent incarnation of the Lord. And excuse me, I'll just take everything apart.
Prabhupada ki, Shri Gauranitai ki, Srila Prabhupada ki. The big ones?
Kiba Jaya Jaya Gaura Chande Aroti Kesoba Kiba Jaya Jaya Gaura Chande Aroti Kesoba Chanavi Tatavani Jagamanaloba Chanavi Tatavani Jagamanaloba Gaurange Aroti Soba Jaga Janamana Loba Gaurange Aroti Soba Jaga Janamana Loba Nitai Gora Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Nitai Gora Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Dakini Tai Chan Vame Gadadara Dakini Tai Chan Vame Gadadara Tatke Advaita Sini Vasa Satradhara Tatke Advaita Sini Vasa Satradhara Basi Ache Gaurajan Ratna Simasane Basi Ache Gaurajan Ratna Simasane Aroti Korenga Brahma Adi Devagane Aroti Korenga Brahma Adi Devagane Narahari Adi Kori Chamala Dulaya Narahari Adi Kori Chamala Dulaya Sanjaya Mukunda Vasu Gosadigaya Sanjaya Mukunda Vasu Gosadigaya Sanka baje ganta baje baje karatala Sanka baje ganta baje baje karatala Madhura mein janga baje paramarasala Madhura mein janga baje paramarasala Sanka baje ganta baje madhur 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 baje Sanka baje ganta baje madhur 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 baje Madhur 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 baje Madhur 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 baje Nittai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nittai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रसादिने निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्याचारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna